My name is Thesa Gray. I'm 34 years old, and even now, I struggle to accept how quickly my life unraveled, not because of betrayal in the traditional sense, but because of arrogance disguised as confidence. I didn't cheat that night, but I crossed a line so publicly, so carelessly, that my marriage never recovered. And the scariest part? I thought I was winning. The party was my idea. I wanted laughter, music, people filling our house so no corner felt quiet. But if I'm honest, it wasn't about togetherness. It was about being seen. I spent the entire day preparing like a performance mattered more than the people in it. Candles placed just right, glasses aligned, snacks arranged as if someone were judging me. Daniel helped quietly. Extra chairs, ice buckets, trash bags. He always did things like that, steady, dependable, invisible. And I hated how invisible he made himself look beside me. I chose a short silver dress that caught the light when I moved, curled my hair, applied lipstick slower than necessary. When the first guests arrived, I made sure I was the one greeting them, laughing loudly, touching arms, holding eye contact just a second longer than polite. I told myself it was confidence, but confidence doesn't need an audience. Ryan enters. Attention becomes a drug. Ryan arrived later. Our neighbor. Easy smile, relaxed posture, the kind of man who made attention feel effortless. When he stepped inside, I felt it immediately. That familiar spark of being noticed without trying. I offered to refill his drink myself, let my fingers brush his arm. It was subtle, just enough to mean something. Daniel was nearby. I caught his expression. Tight, controlled, restrained. I ignored it. Ryan joked about hosting being exhausting, and I leaned in close, lowering my voice, telling him it only felt that way when the wrong people showed up. He laughed, and I liked that laugh more than I should have. The first warning, dismissed. As the evening unfolded, I stayed close to Ryan on purpose. When people gathered in the living room, we sat shoulder to shoulder. When he joked, I laughed louder than anyone else. When he complimented my dress, I told him he always knew exactly what to say. Daniel watched from across the room. Later, in the kitchen, he followed me quietly. Not accusing, not angry, just tired. He asked if I realized how close I was sitting to Ryan. I scoffed, told him he was imagining things. He said people were noticing. That word, people, annoyed me. I rolled my eyes and told him he was being insecure. He said it wasn't insecurity, it was disrespect. That word hit harder than I expected. So I did what I always did when uncomfortable truths surfaced. I deflected. I told him he should feel proud that other men admiring me meant he had chosen well. He shook his head slowly, said it was never about pride, it was about boundaries. I walked away before he could say more. Crossing the line, on purpose. When I returned to the living room, I made sure to lean closer to Ryan, not because I wanted him, but because I wanted Daniel to see. Music grew louder, people danced in loose circles. Ryan spun me clumsily, and I laughed, too loud, too free. Some guests smiled awkwardly, others whispered. My mother winked at me, whispering that men always overreacted, that I was just enjoying myself. My brother Tom pulled me aside later. He asked if I had lost my mind, said I watched me humiliate Daniel in front of everyone. I brushed him off, told him he didn't understand marriage, that Daniel was sensitive, too serious. Tom's expression hardened. He said humiliation has a breaking point. I ignored him. I always did. The silence, the moment everything changed. Daniel retreated to the corner, quiet, still. That silence made my skin crawl, so I raised my voice, made a joke about men who couldn't keep up with me, men who didn't know how to have fun. Laughter followed, but it wasn't warm, it was nervous. I expected Daniel to explode, to argue, to accuse, to embarrass himself so I could call him controlling, but he didn't. He stood, placed his glass on the table, picked up his coat, and walked toward the door without saying a single word. The room froze. I laughed too quickly, saying he was just tired, but his movements were calm, deliberate, final. The door closed behind him, not slammed, just shut. And somehow that was worse. That click echoed longer than any argument ever could. I stayed, smiled, poured another drink, pretended nothing had happened. But deep inside, something shifted. Because when a man stops arguing, stops pleading, stops explaining, it's not because he doesn't care. It's because he already knows what he's going to do next. And I was too busy feeling admired to realize I had just lost my husband. I woke up the next morning with a dull headache and an even heavier feeling in my chest. For a brief moment, I forgot everything. Then I turned my head. Daniel's side of the bed was untouched, no wrinkles in the sheets, no warmth left behind. His pillow looked exactly as it had the night before. That's when panic flickered, but only briefly. I pushed it down, told myself he was being dramatic, that he probably stayed at his parents' house, that he'll cool off and come back embarrassed for walking out. I made coffee, checked my phone, and that's when reality began tapping on the glass. Photos from the party had already been posted. There I was, leaning toward Ryan, laughing too hard, my hand brushing his arm, my body angled away from my own husband. In one photo, Daniel stood in the background, still, detached, already gone. For the first time, the images didn't look playful, they looked cruel. But pride is a powerful drug. I told myself people were reading too much into it. Outside voices, confirmation I didn't want. I called my mother. She laughed, said men always sulk when their egos get bruised, told me not to apologize, said Daniel needed to toughen up. Her words felt comforting because they excused me. But later, that afternoon, my brother Tom called. His voice was calm, too calm. He said I watched me humiliate Daniel in front of everyone, said I crossed a line I couldn't uncross. I snapped back, told him he didn't understand marriage, that Daniel was sensitive, too serious. Tom's expression hardened. He said humiliation has a breaking point. I ignored him. I always did. That night, I went out with friends. I needed noise, validation, someone to agree with me. Cassie said men were jealous by nature, said I'd done nothing wrong. Dana stayed quiet. When she finally spoke, she said respect mattered more than attention. I brushed it off, called her old-fashioned. But then I noticed something. Two women at a nearby table were whispering. One of them had been at the party. I caught a few words. Poor Daniel. My stomach tightened. I laughed louder than necessary to drown it out. But laughter doesn't erase truth, it only delays it. The days after, when the world starts watching, Daniel didn't come home. He called to check on the kids, only the kids. His voice was calm, neutral, professional. When I tried to call back, he didn't answer. I sent a message telling him he was overreacting. No reply. Gossip spread fast. At the grocery store, smiles felt forced. Neighbors nodded politely, but didn't linger. Ryan enjoyed it. He joked that I was the star of the party, said Daniel had always been uptight. I laughed and hated myself for enjoying it, because somewhere deep inside, I knew people were watching, not admiring, judging. The return, not the way I expected. When Daniel finally came home, I expected reconciliation, an argument, tears, a fight I could win. Instead, he stood in the doorway like a guest. I smirked and asked if he was done sulking. He didn't react. He asked if he understood what he had done. I told him I'd done nothing wrong, that he imagined disrespect. He said quietly, "Everyone saw." I snapped back, told him he embarrassed himself by leaving, that people thought he was weak. That's when I saw it. Not anger, not hurt, resolution. He said I'd made my choice clear. That sentence landed like ice water. Because he wasn't threatening, he was concluding. The word I never expected, lawyer. The next day, my brother came over. He didn't sit down. He said Daniel was staying with our parents, calm, collected, and talking to a lawyer. The floor felt unsteady beneath me. I laughed, called him a liar. Tom shook his head, said Daniel wasn't angry anymore, and that was worse, because anger fades, decisions don't. That night, I looked at the party photos again, really looked. My smile looked forced. Ryan's grin looked smug. Daniel's silence looked final. And for the first time, I felt something unfamiliar, fear. When the papers came, I didn't cry, not at first. I sat there staring at words that felt unreal, irreversible. Only then did I understand. Daniel didn't leave because of Ryan.